Let me unmute my mic. Good evening, everybody. Let me fire up the PowerPoint and then we can begin. So, I guess I'm live. I think I forgot to unmute my microphone. Now everything should be working. Good evening, everybody, to the Contenders livestream number 65 already. It's been quite a journey, isn't it? So yeah, first of all, welcome to this Contenders livestream. For those who are new to the group, welcome. I hope you are going to enjoy the stream very much, as I'm pretty sure it will be very insightful. And yeah, basically today we will be continuing going over the different chart types. We're almost through it on extra charts. There's basically 2 left, which I'm gonna cover tonight. And all I would say is, for this stream to reach its full effect, I highly recommend that you focus all of your attention onto this stream for the coming, let's say, 40 minutes or so. Make notes, take out your notepads, make those notes, remove the noise, put your trading activities on hold for the duration of the stream, because the information that I'm about to share is, I think, very helpful for your trading. So I think it has the best effect if you do put your full attention on this stream for the 40 minutes to come and take full benefit of it. So yeah, firstly, as usual, the trade disclaimer. Make sure you are aware of what's written in here, and the fact also that all the information provided in the stream is meant to be educational only and not financial advice. Ultimately, you are responsible for taking and managing your own trades. So if you haven't read this yet, pause the screen, read this carefully, and then continue to watch the stream. What's on the menu today? Today on the menu is volume and delta charts, and then ultimately, if you do have any questions, I will leave some. The thing is, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently this time. Usually I start off with chart of the week, but today I'm gonna do that in the end. You might have been aware that I have not posted a chart of the week this week, and I did so for a good reason, because I didn't feel, especially with the decline on Bitcoin and the volatility that it brought with it, it was not the best environment to trade alts. So instead of trying to force fit a trade into something, I have chosen to not post a chart of the week. There was basically 2 coins that I had in mind to do so. One of them was OMG, which has been covered this morning by Victor, and playing out beautifully at the moment, actually. So well done on that one, Victor. And the other one is Link. And what I will do is I will take a look at Link in the end of the stream by showing you some charts and basically finding a setup, basically to make up for it a little bit, as I do think that Link has a great potential to come. But I will do that in the end, because I want to first focus on today's contents, which is all about the volume and delta charts. I realized, let me quickly double check if you can all hear me and see the screen. Let me double check that myself as well before I continue, because that would be a shame, me talking all the time and then not seeing the correct screen. So, right, all looks good. So let me continue. Volume and delta charts today. So, basically the remaining 2 chart types. I realized that I need, oh boy, the issues of live streaming, right? Bear with me a second. Apologies for that. There we go. It's always the thing, right, with live streaming. Things can go wrong, and you are all able to witness my inability to stream properly. But I think all the issues are now solved. So today, let's get back to the stream. volume and delta charts. So today we will be going over the remaining two chart types, which are the volume and delta charts on ExoCharts. And when you open the different chart types, this is where you can find them. So you have here a row of delta charts, and you here have a row of volume charts. They are next to the range charts and the ticks charts that we have covered, I believe, 2 weeks ago now. So that is where you can find them. And let me go over them. The good thing is that this is a little bit less complex than, for example, the trend reversal chart, but nevertheless not less useful. So let me go over it. Let's start off with the volume chart then. The volume chart is, like I said, fairly simple, but incredibly useful. Volume charts is basically a chart type that prints a new candle after a specific amount of volume has been reached. So if you can see here, for example, if you select the volume 10 million, then a new candle will be printed each time basically 10 million of volume has been transacted, and that is when a new candle will start. Once that candle reaches another 10 million worth of transactions, then a new candle will be printed. So this candle really is all about volume. I like to use this volume chart a lot because it can be used greatly in combination with actual footprints and imbalances and delta cluster candles. I like these settings because they basically remove a lot of visual noise, and they're also volume charts in general. They're really a great way to see momentum picking up. And I will go over some live examples. I have been listening to your feedback, and the feedback that I got from you guys that you wanted to see some live examples. So that's what I will be going over after a little bit. And basically analyze a piece of the chart based off of the volume and delta charts. So the thing is that what I like the most is that this combination with the delta cluster candles, and if you're not aware of what the delta cluster candles are, you will be. Don't worry, you are going to see what I mean after a little bit. But the thing is, it gives a very visual overview of what is going on with the delta. As opposed to, for example, on a trend reversal chart, it is not so useful, or it is not the best way to use it, in my opinion, because you would simply not be able to see, for example, the wicks on trend reversal candles. As delta cluster candles, they encompass the entire candle. So that is like a little detail and a situational thing, which could potentially be a reason, for example, to switch around different chart types. And that this is just based on my own experiences, and there's so many multiple different things that you can, that you like about different chart types, and ultimately it comes down to personal preference. I will also elaborate a little bit on that a little bit later in the stream, but let's first continue with the explanation of the volume and delta charts. So to recap quickly, the volume chart is all about volume. It prints a new candle after a specific amount of volume has been reached within that candle. Is that limit reached, a new candle will be printed, and so on and so on. Now, delta candles are very, 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 very similar to the volume chart. The difference is that the candles printed here are not necessarily reliant on volume per se, but they do print a candle after a specific amount of delta has been reached. And I would say that of the two, this gives the cleanest chart and is also the most accurate when it really comes to monitoring incoming market orders. I think it's a heavy competitor, for example, with the tick charts, but the delta chart is literally all about the delta. And as we know from previous streams, the market orders are the aggressors of the market. So those orders are the ones that move the price up or down. So delta is literally something that comes basically the closest to the actual action of the price. You can monitor the dominant side of the aggressors more directly within a candle bar than, yeah, like in any other chart type. So I do think that these chart types are a little bit more simpler in its concept, as by now most of you, I got a little bit distracted over there. Sorry about that. I do think that these chart types are a little bit more simpler in its concept, but that is also because we have been covering really advanced concepts lately. So now I think this is also a nice moment to ease down a little bit and go over some simpler concepts. But keep in mind, they're not necessarily less useful or anything like that. But also, in addition to that, volume and delta should not be new concepts to you guys anymore by now. Because you are already more or less familiar with the way that delta and volume works, as we have been progressing through the volume series of the contender series. But there is one missing element that I haven't really told you about that apply to these chart types specifically, that make them so extremely powerful. And in my opinion, that missing element would be nothing else than time. It's really great when you see volume coming in and new bars being created, but to really make the best use of these charts, you want to know how long it takes to create such candles, right? So let me give you an example of that. If you see, for example, if you have selected a 10 million volume bar, and that bar is being created with an average of, let's say, 20 minutes, and then suddenly you see the next bar being printed after 10 minutes, and then the next one after that in 5 minutes, and then the next one after that in 3 minutes, and so on and so on and so on. Basically, it's really easy to then pull the conclusion that you can just tell that volume is picking up, because volume is coming in a shorter amount of time than it has done previously. And that is basically what I class as a volume injection. Let me go over some live examples, actually. I think that's a good moment because these concepts are not too difficult. So let me just show you and go over some live examples of what I've been looking at, and mainly I would like to cover like more of like the bigger drops recently that we have seen in price, for example. So I guess you can all see my extra charts right now. I really need to get also like this pad so that I can switch screens more easily, but this will do for now. So the thing is, let me find an example which I wanted to show you guys. Bear with me a little bit. The problem with extra charts is that it doesn't really record that old of data, so it does sometimes take some time to find back on the information. But the cool thing is that this is like we can look at it like interactively, right? And we can just reason our way through it as we go along. So basically that's what I want to focus on. This is the drop of 17th of August. So let me show you guys on the actual chart when that was. The 17th of August, which was basically this liquidity hunt to the downside, this huge wick to the downside after we had like the really big rise up, right? If you look at that, let's say on a 10 million volume bar, then if you open like your footprint statistics bar, what you can see is here, if you go to like your volume row, then you can see that every candle literally is worth 10 million of volume, right? So we got that covered. Now what you can see, let's just simplify it a little bit. Let's just remove a little bit of noise. And what you can see here is that price basically ranged here a little bit in relative the same size of candles, right? And then suddenly you saw price literally dropping down, and the bars are getting larger and larger and larger and larger. When you are looking at the volume chart and the bars are becoming larger and larger, then it shows that there's less liquidity there because price literally just slices through that, and it essentially indicates that volume is not necessarily really, it's actually really bad. To be blunt, it's not good volume, and so it did, because you can just simply let's take a deeper look into that. So if you look at the candlesticks and the delta clusters, so what I'm referring to with the delta cluster candle, this is the delta clusters candle, right? So you can have this setting on, which gives you a delta profile, and a delta cluster, which is one of my favorite way of viewing the candles, because it is just really visual, and it really shows you where the heavy delta has been taken place in the candle. And like I said, this is something that does not necessarily show the wick of the price, for example. So in a trend reversal chart, delta clusters are not really like the most ideal condition to use them in, for example. But anyway, getting back to like the larger candles, like let's analyze it a little bit more in depth. You can see, right, that you had all these selling imbalances, and we don't necessarily know yet if these are actual shorts or if these are longs getting stopped out, because you don't know that until you take a look at open interest, for example. So it can be either of those. Either these are new shorts opening, or they are longs basically getting stopped out, right? Because if longs are taking profit, then generally that happens so on limit orders and not on market orders. So if longs are closing out on market, then it's pretty safe to say that those are stops being hit. Yet at the same time, you can see all these zeros, 0, 0, 0, 0. That basically indicates that there were, at this point, there was just literally no buying volume at all. Nothing going on. And these, like a little bit of volume, even like 10 million, not necessarily really that much, isn't it? And then to create such a large candle that basically says that, there's zero liquidity, there's no buyers. So what happens after everything is basically stopped out, or price is failing to reach even more stops, so to speak, and that can be for multiple reasons. The reason is not necessarily important. What is important that you can literally observe from here is that these candles are really big, and that basically says that volume here is absolutely terrible. There were no sells here. There were not even any buys here until price kind of bounced back off. This is where the first couple of buys actually started to get back on, right? Then you had a rise in price, and then you're starting to see like smaller condensed candles on the way up, for example. Now this is, I guess this is a good example. So here, liquidity really bad, and you can see on the chart, right? Obviously, let me use the replay button for that, and also let me just hide. Let's look at it nice and clean. You see, you can literally see we had like this Star Wars wick to the downside. So we literally had like this liquidity hunt to the downside, right? And we closed all the way back up here. Wouldn't say really that there's trapped shorters here. A secondary thing that you have to do for that, in order to know that, you have to look at open interest, right? So this can give us a clue of the nature of the move as well. And you can see literally open interest is declining. So based off of that, simply said, you can basically say that relative, there's of course some shorts have opened, but it's basically not even worth mentioning, so to speak, because overall the open interest declined massively, basically taking out all the people that longed up in this region, and basically finding an equilibrium where actually buy orders actually were able to fill again. And this is also like really nasty. Let's say you market long in around here, for example, then it could, because the liquidity is so incredibly bad. Let's say price is here and you hit market buy, for example, then it could very well be that actually your market order gets filled here. Now that's massive slippage. So like looking at it like this in candlesticks in the volume bars, this can definitely give you a heads up whether how does the liquidity look like, and then in combination with things like open interest, it pretty much gives you a heads up of you know, whether this breakout or breakdown is a legit one. Now, as you see the rise up again, you see that these candles have the same amount of volume in them, you know, because, you know, we are looking at a 10 million volume candle bar. You can see that these things are a little bit more compressed. And I would say when you're looking at a volume candle bar, when the candles are smaller and more compressed relative to each other, and ideally when it actually approaches a key level, right? When they're more compressed, it shows that the move is a little bit more reliable, as basically there's a lot of trading activity taking place, right? People entering trades, people exiting trades. So that actually says that there is liquidity going on here. So ideally, that is basically what you want to see. So those are like really visual things, right? Those are really visual things to see. And we haven't even really looked at time, for example. But I want to hold off that a little bit longer and actually analyze something different, which is the following rise that we had actually on the 26th of July, which I personally would class as a valid breakout to the upside. The 26th of July was this section of price, right? Basically, when we were breaking out of the consolidation range, right? So here, this is the normal candlestick pattern. We had like basically the rise up, and now we can analyze it also, this exact breakout in the same way, but then on a volume chart. And I gotta be honest, I would have preferred to analyze this a little bit like on a similar volume bar, for example, but that's not possible because there's not enough data that I can look back to. So I'm gonna have to refer to the 50 million volume candle, which basically means that every new candle is being created after 50 million worth of trades. So let me find that piece of price action back. So bear with me a little bit. What did I say? 26th of July. I'm happy that I have a good computer, because if you don't have if you don't really have a very strong computer, this takes ages to load. So I'm happy that that is not happening. So basically, what happened, right? Let's analyze. Here we more or less had like the end of the correction, and of course, this is in hindsight. It's impossible to say. As price is literally like moving, it's impossible to say that that this is the low. That's impossible. But in hindsight, let me rephrase that. It's impossible to say that this is the exact low, but it is possible to actually determine whether we are going to break out from here or not. And the reason why volume candles can really help with that, for example, there's so many things that you actually have to look at. For example, you have to be aware of how much volume has been taken place in the previous top, how much delta was was basically there, and how much positive or how much negative delta was being was at the previous high. And how basically you want to determine how aggressive or how a recent top or the previous top got sold or bought, for example, or did it got defended, or did it not got sold aggressively, and then essentially sellers automatically took over. So that's the first thing that you want to know. This was proper resistance, obviously, because we also had all this market structure before, right? So it did make sense that we were reaching from the top of my head. I also believe this was some sort of a point of control of this range. So it does make sense that we actually got a rejection off of here, basically making a higher low, right? Then we started to make our move upwards, all 50 million candles, right? And I don't really know why this one says 40 million. I'm not too sure. Probably a big order. I'm not too sure why this is showing 40 million candles. I don't know. Doesn't matter. All 50 million candles. Now there's a couple of things that you can look at. How how fast are these candles being created, right? So here we have 50 million being transacted in basically 2 hours and 21 minutes, right? The next candle to almost 3 hours, the next candle 2 hours. So an average of basically, let's say 2.5 hours here per candle. And then as we are approaching this high, you can actually see that we are having 50 million, in this 50 million candle, we are starting to see an increase in positive delta. Compared to this high, for example, where we had 22 million positive delta in the candle, whereas as we actually come up, right, to this high, we have literally the same amount of delta coming into a 50 million candle, and all of that in 11 minutes. As opposed to 2.5 minutes. So this candle literally gives you a heads up, and we haven't even broken out here, right? So we basically got a little reaction here, literally at the previous point of control. So it actually showed us that it was resistance. But the fact that this candle was created literally in 11 million, right? And we haven't even broken out here. This can give you like this heads up, like, wow, suddenly out of nowhere, that is the volume injection. And then you can suddenly see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive candles, all basically printed below 10 minutes, all on positive delta, right? And then of course at some point you're basically starting to consolidate a little bit as you find some sort of resistance, and that is fine, right? And you can you can get a heads up again. Are the highs being aggressively sold? And then basically two options, very similar to the trend reversal chart. Like if you get rejected at a certain level, two things that can happen. Either you're gonna reject and reverse, right? And the confirmation of that would be a loss of market structure, which is at the moment, which is now all the way down here. So if you're coming up with such a volume, with so much volume, right? After a consolidation range of basically 85 days, how likely is it that you're then gonna retrace all the way back to this piece of market structure? I very, very unlikely, and that is also where context really comes into play, right? And I traded it literally like this. I was on holiday then, but I traded this through volume charts. So that's why I'm able to explain it so much in detail. So because I traded this breakout really nicely actually, and to get back to my story, two things that can happen: either you range or you reject, right? And the confirmation of a rejection is not necessarily like an increase of negative delta per se, but you also want to see market structure being lost, and that would give you confirmation of that this was a fake out, and you might want to look for a short. Alternatively, of course, you can get an initial reaction on high volume or like a quick volume bar. So you could class this as like high volume also to the downside. But literally all you do is you basically just consolidate a little bit, right? You do make like a higher high, and then you rotate a little bit back to the lows again. And as you can see, that the time that it actually takes for these candles to form, right? So here you have to the upside. All these candles are being printed in very short amount of time. Then you actually start to consolidate, right? And this took 1.5 hours literally for this candle to be printed. And then you actually got another rise, and you see that these candles are being created in rapid succession of each other, right? Not as much as this one, but you can see that the moves up are definitely have more power in them than the moves down, right? So that is definitely a heads up of how this is progressing. Then you can see that we are actually retracing, right? We are actually like making some sort of like a local market structure downtrend, but all on like very, very candles that take hours to complete, right? So volume is definitely dropping off. That could be your conclusion, right? And then ultimately ending this candle on an uptick in volume would not be the correct word in this one, but an uptick in delta. So essentially either stopping out longs, right? Stopping out longs, and then actually starting to have an increase in volume again. And as you can see, as we are here coming, you know, as we're coming up to these previous highs, you can again judge like, okay, how much delta has been taking place at these previous highs. This time not so much, right? So this is pretty much a resistance of nothing. So, and then as you do, you literally slice straight through it on, you know, getting another injection in volume, you know, like 50 million, 1 minute, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then the trend starts slowing down again, right? And you don't even need to see the details. You can just literally see it in color codes here. So as we are retracing, you see the darker places in time, and if as you advance in price, you see like these candles are being created in rapid succession, right? So and that is like amazingly beautiful about volume charts. You can so accurately monitor price action, right? So those were 2 examples. Let me go over a third example, a more recent one. So let me switch back to I personally prefer 10 million volume. No particular reason. I've generally, I think this fits very well, but of course you can use literally anything you want. But let's analyze the downtrend that we had here. Very, 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 very similar, right? So you can say here that the candles in general, they're not like massively big, such as we saw in the liquidity hunt, right? So it's actually real volume going, well, context dependent. Real volume, I wouldn't really call it like that, because it was debatable if it's like if it was really a lot of volume. But anyway, the concept really remains the same, right? So you have like these bars being created, and as you can see on the entire downtrend, and you might see that this is maybe a little bit harder to dissect, right? And I will show you next, I will show you the same trend, but then in the delta chart. But let's go over it first. So just looking by the color code, you can already see that every down move here, you know, all these candles are being created in rapid succession of each other, right? In a small amount of time relative to each other. Then you have something of like a retracement that you can see takes a lot longer, right? And then you have another downwards movement, a lot of candles, right? Retrace, lower on time. Then you have another decline in price, and you can see that all these declines are happening like fairly fast of each other. So that's what I mean, like with these type of charts, time is basically like the most important factor, and very, very useful. And of course you then also have to take a look at like, okay, what did overall delta do, right? So how much positive or negative delta was in that candle, and if so, you know, as it actually reaches a key level, where is that delta then being taken place? So this, I guess you all already kind of can guess where I'm starting to go next. This is really where all these different things that you've learned about volume, about time, about delta, about CVD, everything, where it all really starts to come together, isn't it? Right? So you know, here you can see the total delta that has taken place in a candle, which can definitely give you a heads up whether this particular low, it might be maybe consolidating for a little bit longer, for example. And then you want to really look into the footprint as well to really see, okay, where is this volume then in the candle, right? So if the volume is being taken at the lows in conjunction, for example, with open interest and everything like that, you can really get an idea if traders are being trapped at the lows or if they were here at the middle, for example. And based off of that, it can give you so much information that can help you basically trade the current price action. You know, I would not say this is suitable for swing trading. This is really like the beating heart of the market. So you really look literally into it, like the bloodline or something like that. That's how I would like to see it. You know, you can see literally everything flowing through here. I'm getting carried away here because it makes me all excited analyzing this. Let me show you the exact same trend. So bear in mind that personally, it can be a little bit confusing because you have a lot of bars here, right? Now let's switch to let's what should we do? Let's take a 5 million delta. So this is a delta chart, right? And let's look at the same downtrend. Look how clean this chart is. Let me just remove some noise. Look how clean this chart is. So much, like personally, I think you can read this so much better than actually a volume chart, you know? And this is the nice thing about a delta chart. It's so incredibly so incredibly clean. You can literally immediately see that there is literally, you know, you had a downtrend with no break in market structures, no doubt about it. There's literally no doubt about it, right? High, low, lower high, lower 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 low. Amazing. And at the moment you can basically say the same thing, right? High, low, higher high, right? Of course you need a little bit more information as to, you know, how does open interest and everything like that look like. But this is just a super clean chart, and I do like to use it. And in addition to that, if you look at open interest, you can just also see that this downtrend was actually really strong, right? Because you did have the decline in price, and you had a rise in open interest overall, right? And now you could potentially say the same thing. We are now having like somewhat of a bullish market structure, but actually open interest is declining. Now, is that bullish or is that bearish? Well, that's for yourself to decipher. I would say market structure is king, personally. But let me tell you a little bit more about the delta chart itself. So what a delta chart basically does is it basically creates a new candle after every 5 million of either positive or negative delta. If it surpasses this amount, then it basically says that there was a big order being filled, very similar to the range chart. So these concepts really also overlap each other. And one thing that I would also say is that with delta charts sometimes take a little bit longer to form, as usually the candle fluctuates basically from minus 5 million delta to plus 5 million delta, right? Because it only creates a new candle if either negative 5 million delta is being basically created and positive. So that's why it can take a little bit longer than, let's say, a volume chart to form, but it also makes it so that a delta chart is just cleaner. And another thing, that's what I wanted to say as well. Time obviously plays a similar role, and the way that you can actually read a delta chart is so let's say if the amount of volume, so if one candle is being printed, so for example here, this is a good example. So you have a downwards candle with on minus 6 million delta, is being created in 3 minutes, right? And in that you basically had 6.2 million in volume. Basically, this is what I personally would like to call like something like an action candle, right? Because it's packed with market orders. It is packed with orders that actually move the price, in this case, to the downside. If you, for example, have something along the lines of this, where you have, let's say, a candle with negative 5 million delta, and being, or this one better example is because it's more exaggerated, I suppose. So if you have a positive 5 million delta candle, right, being created in 28 minutes on 38 million volume, well, then you can basically say that this was this upwards attempt was basically pretty weak, right? Because the candle ended in a positive delta, but it took very, very long, and it required a lot of volume to even get to this positive 5 million delta, right? So if the volume is more equal to, let's say, the delta setting that you've set it to, then I would say it's a good indication that there's momentum in this candle. And in addition to the time, how fast is a candle being printed is very useful. And what is also extremely useful is I like to use it how much actual trades have taken place within this candle then, right? And how much of those were buys and sells. I can imagine that might be a little bit complex, so allow me to show you how you can actually do that. So let me remove that. If you go to the settings of footprint bar statistics, then you click on trade count, you can delete or add things to it. And to keep things a little bit simpler, I guess what also would suffice is if you add a new row and then click on trades and then put it on trades count. And basically what it says is how much total trades have taken place in this candle, right? So the total amount of trades in this particular candle. So it took 38 minutes to transact 24 million on a negative, basically 5 million delta candle. And it took 2,300 trades to get that, right? And that's what you want to know as well. If you, for example, here have a really quick candle with an action candle, so to speak, and you have like a low amount of trades, it basically also emphasizes the fact that bigger orders are being placed, right? So that indicates that momentum is picking up. And of course, probably this was some kind of a key level that actually got approached, right? And then you kind of like got a little bounce off of that, but then you just literally continued downwards. So time and trade counts, especially for the delta chart type, is extremely helpful. And I'm thinking, do I forget anything to tell? Because I get so excited when I analyze these things, and it is just so powerful, right? When you combine all these different factors with each other. And I think this is, for now, everything that I wanted to say about this. So let me get back to the actual stream then. I hope you guys basically those were the last two chart types that I wanted to cover and I wanted to talk about. They're not overly complex, but they can give you a vast amount of information, just as all the other chart types. So it has basically been a pretty chart type past month or so, because we have actually covered all of the chart types that are basically the most significant on exo charts that we have been covering over the past month. So let's just do like a really small recap of what we've been going through. We have covered range charts, which basically show a set difference in price. And an example of that would essentially be a range 40 chart would create a new candle after 40 ticks. In other words, $20, because one tick is 50 cents, right? Then we have covered a range Y chart, which is basically the same as a range chart, but it's slightly modified. The difference basically is that a normal range chart creates a new candle when price has moved 40 ticks, regardless of where it opened. The range Y chart counts from the opening point of the previous candle. That is the only difference. Other than that, exactly the same. We have also covered a tick chart that refers to essentially a set amount of transactions. So to give an example, range 230 would create a new candle after 230 trades. Not to be confused with the tick size, by the way, because that refers to, a vertical movement of price on the y-axis of a chart. So essentially, tick size is 2 ticks, basically is $1. One tick is 50 cents. So those things are different. So you have a tick chart and you have a tick size. Very important to not confuse these things with each other. Last week we have talked about what is, in my opinion, was the most complex one. It basically required a whole separate dedicated stream to it. The trend reversal. A trend reversal is a chart type that consists of two bar types, a trending bar and a reversal bar. A trending bar is created when price moves up or down a set amount of ticks, and a reversal bar is being printed when price moves against that trending bar a specified amount of ticks. So basically when price moves to the opposite direction of a trending bar, then you will get a reversal bar. Today we have covered the last two chart types, with the volume chart being a volume chart that prints a new candle after a specific amount of volume has been reached, and we have covered the delta charts, which print a new candle after a specific amount of delta has been reached. Now, those are all the chart types that I wanted to cover, or that are there to be covered essentially on ExoCharts. Now, after tonight's stream, we have covered everything that you need to know, the basics of these chart types. The good thing is that this will give you the theory necessary to start practicing and experimenting with them on your own. Right? Now, I want to give you all about 30 seconds to think about what you've learned and what would be the next best step. I'm going to give you 20 to 30 seconds. I know that's a difficult question, so allow me to give you some leads on how you can progress into this, making this your own. But basically the short answer is the next thing that you can do is start adding more complexity. And what I really want to emphasize firstly, though, that in order to fully understand and make this into a successful strategy, that you really have to make this your own. And this all starts by understanding its underlying concepts of what principles all these chart types are basically being built on, which is what we've been covering over the last few streams. And after this stream, I think it's time to start taking the next step. If you understand all of these chart types and the basic concepts behind them, that is what the past streams have been for. If you don't grasp the basic concepts of these charts, I highly recommend to go back and just rewatch them until you understand it, because there's really no point in expanding upon something if you don't grasp the fundamental basics of a concept, right? But if you do understand everything, then the next step is to start adding a little bit more complexity into that. And I've already shown you over the last few days here and there on how you can do that. But now I want to formalize it a little bit. I would say it is time to take the next step and add more complexity as you go along, in order to really fully master all of the theories covered in this entire footprints and volume series. All I want to say is don't worry, I will try and give some leads on how you can progress with that, and that should, I think, help you get on your way. First of all, there really is no best chart type. I think that's really important to mention. These charts are helpful in a variety of different situations, and I would not say it's necessary to fully master or use all these chart types at all times, because ultimately it also really boils down to personal preference. And everyone is a different type of trader, and everyone trades through different strategies. And for example, some people might find a volume chart much more useful than, let's say, a delta chart or a range chart. And that's completely fine. This is something that you can only find out after spending time on these charts and observing each chart types over an extended period of time. It requires time and experience to find out how this fits your own trading style. And I can give you the theory to deliver basically a basic understanding of these concepts, to help you grasp these concepts. but how to really accurately react on what is happening in the heat of the moment in each of these charts while the volatility is happening, and to trade literally off of that is really something that I believe you can only learn through experience. And I don't think that I can teach that. That is something that I think cannot be taught, and that is you have to have this experience. You have to be exposed to it, so to speak. Having that said, the leads that I want to give you is to add more complexity, is to have these charts open, right? And then, for example, add in open interest, right? When you do get the experience and get a good feel of what you're looking for in these chart types, mixing in open interest is a really great way to judge the nature of the move, for example, because open interest can tell you whether something is being whether a level is being squeezed or not, whether new longs are opening or new shorts are opening, or if it's just a stop hunt. A second thing that you might want to add in is delta, because that can basically give you an additional clue of the nature of the move, right? The strength of the move, so to speak. So open interest indicates essentially that basically people are interested in trading in that same direction, whereas delta can really give you a heads up in how strong is this move really, like how much delta really is. They're two different things, but they cannot be without each other. So I guess I would have to rephrase this into delta and volume, because that can literally give you a heads up of how strong is this move. Is there more volume and delta on this particular move that's happening right now in relation to the other one, to the older one, to the previous high, for example? That can give you a heads up where the price is going to break out. And the example that I gave earlier in the stream, I think is a great example where delta and volume really came together. That gave a big heads up of a massive breakout. And lastly, CVD, which is basically the everything combined into each other. So whether you this is how you can spot if selling or buying is being absorbed. So I consider these three additional factors that you can mix into your chart readings, and basically the best ones, because they can give you many clues and hints as what price is doing and where it might go in the very immediate term, and also makes up for, if you really master this, it makes up for a well-rounded scalping arsenal, so to speak. Like you have like a really powerful toolkit available. And of course there are so many more things that you can add in and make it as complex as you want, but first, I would say to read all these things like chart types, footprints, open interest, delta, CVD. All these things are already quite a lot, and read them all correctly, all at the same time. And I would say that gives you like a super strong fundamental toolkit when it comes to reading and trading price action. As a matter of fact, actually, that I reminded myself of that. I think I saw some people like posting some really cool charts. So where did I saw that? Let me see that. There was Neo. So, like Neo, I really like this picture, by the way. So I wanted to highlight this for a second. Like, here you can see like this trend reversal chart in combination with like this bid-ask volume profile, combined with like a customized footprint bar statistics. And so I saw this and I just kind of wanted to highlight that. I think that's a really good way to experiment and make these things your own, and work your way through getting a feel for this thing. So and I've been seeing many more charts over the last few weeks, so that's just that's a delight to see. Really cool. So just want to highlight that. Right, so I would say now is a good moment to, if you do have any questions, please write them out in the chat. and so they can be collected, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. In the meantime, while you are writing out questions, let me go over to the chart of the week, which in my opinion is going to be Link. I have something really cool to show on Link. Oh, I am still on the replay. I was like, what? But there we go. That makes much more sense. That really threw me off. Link. Let's go over Link. I do think Link is in a really interesting place right now, and I think this has pretty good potential to become a chart of the week. So let me walk you through it, and I think you will be blown away with what I want to show you. So I will have to look back in time a little bit. So we all know that Link is just, going massively, right? And I suppose that it's very, it might be difficult for you to think like, wow, Link already did so much percentages, right? So how should I get into something like this, right? So I think this might be a good idea to cover Link shortly. Not gonna make it too long, but basically I have been in Link for a very, very long time now, all the way from, let me pull up that speed resistance fan, all the way from the 618. I've been in Link. Of course, I've been like, taking profits and adding back on and everything like that, and I mean, my entry is literally not here anymore at all. But I have been trading Link basically all the way up, so which is pretty cool. But nevertheless, how do you trade that? I think basically Link, as it is right now, has so much volatility and volume that it's just a shame that Binance has so much fees, because I'm really interested on like day trading Link right now, because it's just so volatile lately, and yeah, it's really nice. But the fees are really killing. So I haven't found a way yet. Anyway, off topic, let's go to the chart. I've been pulling a fib channel all the way back from all the way here, and I have had this channel on since literally, I believe, January 2020. This is when I really started to chart Link like really actively. So this is a very old channel. So bottom, bottom to bottom, 0.1, 0.2, pulling it from here. So allow me to demonstrate you. Bottom of the channel, top of this Fibonacci channel, right? This gives us a channel. You already can see it, it's so perfect, and you're gonna be massively amazed. Just wait. First of all, let's just go with the I'm getting really excited. Let's open up the 0.618. You can already see how perfect that was, right? Literally not the middle of the channel, but the 618 of this fib channel. Resistance, 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 right? And of course, we declined a little bit. We never really hit the bottom again, but you will be amazed with how relevant this channel is till literally today. Right? We actually came on top of this channel, then we had another decline that we kind of hovered around. And basically, upon flipping this 618, this is where it truly started, right? This is where the run actually started. So this was the start of 618, 618, 618. We broke through, we backtested it, and then we had like a rise, right? And we are now basically coming down for a little bit, and I think we definitely there's room for more upside to come. Am I 100% sure? Nope, but that is also part of trading. But technicals definitely help. So allow me to demonstrate. Based off of this channel, if you extend that into a 1.618, what do you get? How perfect is that, right? You literally came back above that, you hovered around here for a little bit, you backtested it, bounced off of it, broke through, backtested the 1-to-1, then flipped that 1.618. It doesn't stop there. Let's expand. 2 extension. Where was this top? Almost at, okay, it's not perfect, but good enough, right? it did more or less have a reaction off of the 2 extension. And this is the reason why I use this, because we're at all-time highs, right? You cannot pull internal fib retracements anymore, so you have to work with extensions, right? So that is the 2 extension. Now let me expand a little bit to the 2618, right? We had the retrace. We went all the way back up, and where did we found support? On the 2.618. Now let's expand even further. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's so incredibly perfect. I think I just moved it. We're going to the 3. Top of this consolidation area. Back tested the 2.618, smashed through it. Where did we halt it? 3.618. Not necessarily that helpful on like a daily term time frame, but I'm going to show you this. It's now really relevant again. And then we have the 4, right? Again, a reaction, right? Consolidation underneath, broke through it. And then we have the 4.618. Almost exactly the top of the recent move. How insane is that? How insane is that? This is crazy. Mind-blowing, really. I don't know what you guys think, but I think this is amazing. One channel. It gave you all the levels. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so now let's get back down to earth. While Link remains in the moon, we have to stay down to earth because we are traders and we want to trade it. So let's look for a setup. I've already done some pre-work. So basically getting the most recent horizontal levels, daily levels, right? Literally set at this, I forget now, at the 3 extension, 3.618, another daily and a weekly level close to the top, right? So those are like your horizontal levels that you can pull. Now add into the mix a couple of fib pulls. Really important fib pulls are basically from the start of the impulse, right? So if you pull a fib from here to the, let me just hide this for a second. If you pull a fib here from the bottom to the high, right? Basically you have here a 382. And if you pull another fib pull from a more recent impulse, I've pulled it from here. Because it has really nice confluence with the 382, and it looks like we're pretty much bouncing from it right now. And we are still on the daily term time frame, right? So what we want to do now is basically zoom into like a lower term time frame in order to specify a little bit an entry potential. So I would say basically, lining up very much with the volatility of Bitcoin, we basically fell down through the CC, but we basically hit more or less the point of control of this previous consolidation area, which is very much what you want to see in a good bull trend. And ultimately, it just wicked through it, and then we had a rise back up, and now we are potentially changing market structure again and potentially consolidating underneath resistance. So I feel that if you're not in a trade, that we are very close to actually taking a potential trade. So analyze that a little bit further, right? So basically coming down from here through the 618, having our rise back up and basically bouncing off of the weekly once again, right? Very relevant level, and now we're basically having some sort of like a change in market structure, right? Because if this is the low, then we have our high here, and then we have simply made a higher low, bouncing off of the daily level, and now coming up back to this daily level again. Looks like we're consolidating underneath resistance, right? We do have an increase in volume, actually not really. So ultimately still ranging, but I am bullish on Link, and I would say reclaim this weekly, and then you can look potentially for more upside. Ultimately, you do want to see this high being taken out, right? Because then you have like local market structure is then changed back into bullish again, and then more upside is likely. If you want to get an early aggressive entry, which I think is okay to do here because we are in such a strong uptrend, there's always a time and place to be aggressive, and I personally think that I am a little bit more aggressive on Link, also because I'm very comfortable with trading Link, because I've been trading Link now for 8 months basically. So I'm comfortable with it. And I'm also in a really nice position size already. So wouldn't mind too much if it doesn't play out. But I'm approaching this as if I haven't taken a trade just yet, right? So what do I want to see? Ultimately, you do want to see this daily flipped, right? And I think that can basically give you a heads up that we might actually start breaking more to the upside again. And then we still have basically this weekly and this consolidation area to take out. So first thing that you want to look for is an internal retracement, typically to the CC, right? And pulling that from the high to the low. Whoops. Pulling that from the high to the low gives you basically the CC literally in the middle of that. Well, where's your confluence? There you go. Let's get the channel back on. There is your confluence, right? So I would say resistance, right? So if you are looking for a trade, I'm basically gonna give this on a silver platter. I would say entry over here, take profit CC, and take profit CC, and then you can use like this consolidation area as a stop loss, right? Because you don't really want to see this daily lost again after it's being reclaimed, even if it's an altcoin, and especially a strong one like Link. So I would say entry here, stop loss below this last consolidation area, take profit 1, right? Clear that, then basically weekly is next, and that already gives you a 16%, which is absolutely massive. Come back above the weekly, new highs, and yeah, sky's the limit, really. Yeah, that's it. But nevertheless, as long as we're ranging, it is unwise to really assume that we're gonna break to the upside. But I do think personally, this is really like you have to decide for yourself what type of trader you are. Are you a day trader or are you a swing trader, right? So I trade Link swing and daily. So this is why I will be taking profits on all these places. But I also feel that this could potentially be a great buy the dip opportunity because I don't think the trend is over yet. I could be wrong, but that's why you have a stop loss in place. Very simple. So chart of the week. Let me screenshot that, and not to let everyone FOMO in, I'm going to do this, which is already basically 10%, which is a massive trade, if I'm honest. So that was chart of the week for you guys. Apologies for not posting it earlier, but I think the conditions are now slightly better because we're ranging on Bitcoin. So, you know, that basically gives some space to altcoins. So let me post that here in this chat. So you guys can compare the levels. And I will give you a potential swing trade as a present. So let's hope that it plays out. And if not, then yeah, like I said, you have a stop loss. So yeah, be aware of the risk that you're taking. Don't go all in. Keep everything in check. And ultimately, you are responsible for your trades. So let's go over some questions then. Let me see if there are any. Ooh, my throat's pretty dry. Couple questions. Let's see. Chris Lynch, how did you get time to show up on the footprint bar statistics? Good question. Very simple. With this button, you basically get your footprint bar statistics. And from there on out, you can customize everything you want. So simply click on the cogwheel here. And here you have a little button add, right? And whether you want to add it below the main one, so basically on top, or below your volume thing, or below your delta thing, doesn't matter. Let's assume you want to add it on the bottom. Select the bottom information, click add row, and select time. There you go. And the same goes for trade count, right? Trade counts. Here you can specify also, you can dissect it even further, like how much sell trades were there, how much buy trades were there, how much trade per second were there, and then how much sells per second were there, how much buys per second. So if you want, you can literally like have a footprint bar statistics that is like literally taking up all of your screens. I personally like to only keep on like the essential ones, but that is like something that's extremely personal, 100% dependent on personal taste. Linda, does rapid succession of a candle print after 10 million mean injection of volume, so strength of the movement to the up, to the down or upside? Yeah, I mean, if candles are, that is an injection of volume. I would class it like that. So if multiple candles are basically being printed in rapid succession of each other, you could class that as injection of volume, because volume is coming into the market. Strength is dependent on two things, and for me, the most important factors would be volume and delta. And order size as well, but that's a little bit more difficult to dissect. But you can get a long way with delta and volume. So delta and volume combined with each other signify strength. The time signifies whether there is an injection, so to speak. Yeah, literally just went over that, John Beddington. So difficult. I don't think if you really had to, like, if you would put a gun at my head and ask me, like, give me an answer, then I would say, oh, it's so hard. I would say volume charts, simply because of the fact that you have a little bit more flexibility in what you can look for in terms of candle size, I would say. Yeah, but they are so similar, and they really, like, there's really tiny details where I sometimes like to use delta or volume, and sometimes I even find myself in situations where I literally like have a tick chart open and then price advances, and then I literally flip to a volume chart, and then 5 seconds later I flip to a delta chart. So I use them all in conjunction with each other. So there's not one that's better or nothing. There's just, for me, I've developed a I guess a certain strategy would, probably, I wouldn't call it a strategy, but I've created a certain it's like more automatic. I do it automatically. I don't even think. I just switch to delta and I switch to volume, and I just see things that confirm my feeling, so to speak, and I react instantly on that. So yeah, that's basically how I use it. So those are the questions on the sheet. I got a notification that there's some more questions in the chat, so let me cycle through. What did we had? Could we get a table cheat sheet summarizing when can we expect a rejection, trending price action, how to identify trapped short longs? That is, yeah, the thing is with this kind of theory, it is so situational. I think I could do that. I'm gonna have to sit and think about how that would fit into a cheat sheet. I imagine that it might be really helpful, but I do need to like think a little bit on how can you do that in the most generic way possible, right? Because it is all dependent on context, and that is very difficult to put that in a cheat sheet. But I guess there's some ground rules, and I guess that is something that we can put in a cheat sheet. So yeah, I will note that down. Thank you. Which other stream can I watch for more fundamentals on this? Yeah, let me show you. If you go to the Chart Champions website, you have let me quickly change my name. I'm going into the website, but I don't want to show my personal information. So give me a moment. Oh well, who cares? Anyway, can't do that right now. If you go to modules, right, then you have here, you have footprints, and this is basically encompassing all the past things that we've talked about. So XR charts introduction, footprint charts introduction, delta, CVD, imbalances part 2, a special CZV setup, and I guess chart types will be added to either this one or in a new module. So expect that in a couple of weeks or so. But for now, you can find them in the champions videos, right? So I hope that helps. And volume series is also very, very helpful for getting more familiar with these things. So I hope that helps. What subject will be next week's stream? Next week's stream is, but yes, that's a good one to mention. Who is important, because I've been doing the streams recently, but as you might know, and I hope you all like that. But also Daniel will be back shortly, and then he will also continue doing the streams again. So he will be giving you, we've basically now finished more or less the footprint kind of section, so to speak. And next week, Daniel will be covering his one of his amazing scalping templates on exocharts and how he uses that. It basically encompasses all the information that has been given in the past few streams. So it's going to be a good one. So good question. So Daniel will be back doing streams on from next week on. How to identify stop hunt? Yeah, really good question. How to identify stop hunt with open interest? Well, very simple actually. If you do see price coming up on very high volume and very high delta, for example, then you can simply, let me just go to a more of a normal chart. This is, for example, a stop hunt that didn't really work out, first of all. So it's not the greatest example. Ideally, what you want to see, if a squeeze is actually happening, right, you want to see a rapid rise in price, right, where on high volume and high delta, and you want to see open interest basically just crashing down. That is an indication that this move upwards is simply a stop run. And then again, two things can happen. Price can range on, and then within this range suddenly new longs can open, and we can still make another rise in price. Or what is also very common, when you do get a stop hunt, you get like really hard rejection. Right, because price is not able to sustain here, because no one is interested in trading there. So automatically, you will have just price will just fall down. So this is an indication, but ultimately, always want to look for a loss of market structure. Let me give you another example. What was a great stop hunt? Yeah, of course, like the big drop that we had over here, right? Yeah, this was an epic one, right? So you had a downwards flush to the downside, boom, everyone stopped out, and then suddenly you had like all these buyers coming in, right? This was a little bit of a strange one because this one stopped out first into all the upside, right? So everyone longing here, marketing in here, open interest rose like absolutely crazy, and then we had like this flush to the downside, stopping everybody out, and then closing here. And then almost directly after that, new long started opening up and we had a new rise in price. So I'm trying. This is a good one. Trying to answer as best as I can. This is a really good example. So here you basically have you have this low, right? Then you had a rise in price and you hover a little bit, and then you actually have like a strong move to the downside, right? You can already see it in the color. High volume, not so high negative delta, but high volume, which is important. And you actually have like all these open interest just falls off a cliff, isn't it? And then ultimately, if you see the candle actually closes back above this high. It doesn't even close here, but it closed all the way here. Of course, you had a little decline afterwards, but ultimately you never took this low again. Ranged on for a little while and then had your rise up. So that's a good example, I suppose. Next question. Would it be possible to label the live streams? Yeah, not necessarily, not very relevant to tonight's content, but yeah, just to let you know, we are working on it. Tom, legend. EXO does always have a point and figure chart type. Did you also cover that one? Maybe I missed it. No, I don't use it. I'm also not going to use it. It is available, but I'm not an expert on this chart type, and also I personally don't see why it would be helpful for trading order flow. One way that point and figure charts are useful are, for example, determining like distribution and accumulation schematics in the Wyckoff way. But even there, I don't use it. So yeah, I'm not an expert on this chart type, so won't be covering it, and I don't think it's helpful, personally. I'm sure that there's multiple uses for it, but I don't. Right, those were all the questions then. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this stream. I hope you learned a lot. And if you have any additional questions or if something remained unclear, then of course, please don't be hesitant to ask me in the chat, as I'll be around every single day. Just tag me and I'll do my best to answer you guys. So with that, have a really great evening and enjoy your evening and happy trading. Cheers all. Bye bye.